Again, and welcome to another Java by example. And today we're going to continue with our example of an invoice. And we have come quite far so far. We have made most of the header information. And now we're going to try to do the bulk information, the body of this message, all the rows. So if we look here, we have some kind of product ID, description, quantity, unity price, and a total price that it's calculated from the quantity and unit price. And we stack these up and show rows with different background for odd and even rows. So we can easily see which rows or which numbers are together. So let's start coding something. So we go back here. Here we have our example with the header information at top. So now we're gonna do this row class, invoice row. So firstly, before we do the invoice row, I think we should have a function in this invoice class to write the actual header on top of all the rows, and then we have the row information. So start here with the print row header, and as usual we take this content we work with, create it down here. It's a public void method, and we continue with this throws IO exception, so we don't have to do anything with that. Go in here to the header, shipping data. We take the shipping data code and just fill it out with that. So in this case we need the stroking and fill color to make the actual area, and I think we should keep these colors that we used so far for the headers. So if we go back here, we have this ship number row with colors, and I think we should have the same color as well on this header. So this first thing here should be the right one, and then we use the lower one with another color to print the actual rows. So let's comment this out and try to create this header information here. So we need product number. Let's see what's the actual data that we have here. We have product ID, description, and unit price. So product number, description, quantity, large letter, and unit price, and then we have a total price, total, yeah, just call it total. I think total price is a bit you could think that this column is the actual total summation of everything, so you could say total row price or something, but I guess the total is good enough. I think we will push these a bit out, give the description a bit more space. So I think we could put this at 380, like that. And header Y in this case should be, we went 20 down, so let's go 30 perhaps. So we go to 27 then. And then we go over to the invoice rows and create then simple print PDF here. So we could call this, we keep this naming standard. I think it's fine. And then we need, see here, we need a different color here. This uses the font. Yeah. So we still use this quite heavy font. Yeah. Let's do this. We go. Yeah, okay. So this actually created both of those, yeah. So that's not what we want. We want just fill and stroke. And then in this line here, I think we could do, yeah, we do for each line. So we create that, and I think we will have to do a fill and stroke as well, but we will keep that for later. So this print row needs an actual row Y. So that will be the row values used in each of this print statements. And then we will create our box around this Y value. So if we want 507, let's go here. Oh, here. Nope. Shipping data. Yes. So at the shipping data, we put the text at 7 above the actual rect, and we made the rect 20 points. So in this case, we need to make this at 520. So in the case of the invoice row, where we want it at that point, then we want this to be row Y for each of these, and then we want to put 7 extra points on each row. So these will be a bit further up from the actual header data, and then we will need this to flip. So I think the easiest way to do that is to actually give a boolean and flip it outside. So odd, call that odd. So if the value is odd, which is the first one we start with, then we stroke, and if it's even, we fill and stroke. That will give us different backgrounds. We might want to push this outside of the function and do that for each, build the actual row backgrounds outside of this function, but I think we'll start here. So then we want the get product number here. Get product description. This get quantity. Let's see here what kind of quantity functions we got. Quantity is a double. So could we get it string quantity? Perhaps it's fine to print it like that. We'll see. Else we need to actually do a toString on it. And here we will get the price. And then we need to calculate the total value. So we will do a public void get total. This should be a big decimal. So the total value should be this total, call that out this price, and then we do a multiply with quantity. That should give us another big decimal that we could print here in the total. The multiply might not be the right function. Let's look it up. Big decimal. See what the Java function for multiplication is. See here. We are using this big decimal so we get the right rounding of values. So if you multiply something or divide or so on without using big decimal, you might get some scale errors or some rounding errors when it comes to actual currency. So big decimal is a good function to use for that. We need an actual big decimal to multiply with, and we could create that from a double, so that should be fine. So new big decimal. So there we go. So this should print a row, I guess. So we have our header here at 20, and then 527 for the actual row value. And here we need to make a for loop where we get each invoice row from invoice rows, and then we do an invoice row print PDF contents, and then we need to actually give it a row y value. So we start our rows at 500, and then for each iteration we will decrease this value with 20, and put row y here, and then we will give it a odd value. Odd value is true to start with, and then we do odd is equal to not odd. That will switch it around. So that should do the invoice iterations, I guess. So we have a header and we have the invoice rows. So let's see if this compiles. Go back here and an error on line 71. Forgot semicolons. Of course, can't forget those. And then we have a few things that we need to push into our invoice row, so it actually compiles. We don't have the IO exception, we have the printer, have all of these, but we don't have the actual color value. So where did we use this? In the header we had the color. So let's give a color to the invoice row and also to the invoice, so both those could create colors and use those. It's important. And simple invoice rows. It's all just called rows. Build again. So let's see here. Incompatible types. Double can't be a string. Big decimal cannot be converted to a string, and big decimal can't be converted to a string. So this is all of these values. So let's make a string representation of these. So, because we might want to use the values for other things. And I believe that get total to string should be sufficient for the big decimals, and perhaps not. We might want to do some rounding. So let's see here, to string, do we have any rounding factors that we could use? Exact integer we don't want, engineering, plain string to string, precision, want to set the precision, I think. Do we have any setters for that? Scale by power, set scale, returns a big in decimal whose scale is the specific value, numerical equal is. Okay, rounding mode. So I guess we want to set a scale before we do a toString on that value. So let's do that. Let's use a big decimal here. Print total is our get total value, and then we set the scale on our print total and do 2, and the rounding mode I guess should be, let's see what values we have here. Rounding modes, up, down, ceiling, floor, half up, half down, half even. I believe the most reasonable is half even. So let's do that. And then we do print total to string. So let's create our other string functions. Get price string, get price, print price value, and last but not least we will do a double to string of pt. Believe that that double has a toString. Otherwise we will look that up. See here. Invoice cannot be applied to given types. Found no arguments. Didn't I specify that I wanted an argument and I didn't supply the arguments? Well, that's no good. So see here, rounding mode. Guess we have to actually supply the rounding mode. So the rounding mode is in math, and that we didn't supply here, so we used big decimal, and now rounding mode as well. Let's push it up by the big decimals. Cannot find symbol. Get quantity string. Sounds like I didn't rename something. Yep. Forget all sort of things. So now it actually built. Let's run it. Target. Invoice with dependencies. And we get a null pointer exception. Yay. At the put print. See here. Invoice row line 49. See here. Invoice row line 49. So here we actually have so in this we have the font. Let's go back here. Null pointer exception. Encode font. Show text. Put text. Strange. So PDF printer put text. So let's go to this. And we have it at line 30. So here show text thing. Okay. So show text says that we have encode PD font. So at this invoice row where we print something, we can't encode the Helvetica font that we have used a lot before. Now that's a bit weird, isn't it? So let's just try without this code first. That's a good start. So we see where the actual fail is. So that works fine. Then we get the actual rows. And in this case, I believe that lines could be good to have as well. Just to split things up a bit, perhaps. But that's no problem. So when we come here, we need to print the product number which is a string. That should be fine, right? So let's start there, build it, and run it. And there we get a null pointer exception. Interesting. So do we have the font types? We got those. Let's go from the other way around and try to print the total string. Let's see what we get there. Oh, that's a null pointer exception too. Okay. That's weird. Change the name of this, because this is a text printer, it's not a header printer. And we will type contents in this. We have used contents all over. We create the font here. In the PDF printer, we'll give it all the things it needs. And then it works all the way until we get here. So I guess the text is null. Let's go back to our invoice row here. And then just do some output. See what we actually get here. System out. Then we do this method. Just print them all. Gotta catch them all. Let's see what kind of weird funk we get. So compiled, we run it. So we get null null 2 null pointer exception. So I guess that the actual reading of the lines isn't working as intended. So here we read the product number from the invoice row and set that. We do the same with each of these. And if we look in the single, wait a minute, let's see our application. We use the single, yeah. So we will read invoice rows, and for each row we will look at product ID, description, quantity, and unit price. Product ID, I see. So let's see how the other, we have one empty. So that's no rows there, a few, same there, and lots. It's the same data here as well, I guess. Yeah. So we have actual difference in the naming of the data and the naming of the keys here. So that's not that's much of a weird coincidence. Why I haven't found that earlier is strange, but yeah, it's good to find these kind of bugs during implementation, because if you don't try it, you will never know. So here it's better that you get these during testing than later. So let's see here. Now we get a number format exception instead. That's good. I guess that the single here uses comma and the big decimal takes dot notation, I guess. So this we will need to look for in our function here. So when we set the price, we'll need to do a simple replace all, or just replace comma with dots. It's not that pretty, but it should do the trick. And we do the same for quantity. If we find any comma, we will replace those with dots. So that's more like it. We actually get the row data. So now we will print our PDF again. So there we have it. Quite nice. We print the PDF with all the rows. And just to show the capabilities, we try to do it with a few as well. The other in data file that we got. So let's build it. So we try each test case. See here. Here we have a few rows. And here we see that the second row isn't that good. We want to make it much thinner. And I guess we also don't want... Do we want the lines or don't we? We might not want to make boxes. We might just want to make... Yeah. So this will be a line exercise then. And here we see that the shipping number was quite large as well, so it didn't fit into the box that we have up here. So that's something that we will need to look into as well. So go into the invoice row, we bump this down to 8, so those isn't that big. I believe we'll bump this down to 8 as well. Let's see if it looks better with a bit less of a large font. Maybe the font made it a bit heavy. Yeah, so this looks much better. So I think we will need to do some lines as well. So let's go back to the invoice row, and then the fill color, I think we will need to make it much more light, because this is quite heavy. So let's do that. Oh, that was too light. If you do it, you can always overdo it. let's see here. Yeah, so that's a bit better, a bit thinner. So I think that the next time we will try to fill this form out a bit, try to make a larger box that we could fill all our information into, make lines between each of the columns, and so on. So we need to change the setup a bit, but I think this is a really good start for our form. Now we have most of the essential data out there, and we have also printed each of the prices, and we have calculated the total for the prices, and that looks nice as well. If we want to, we could look into pushing these to the right and have a right formatted column instead. But I think this is a good place to stop this episode. I hope you liked it and that you learned something from it. And please share it with a colleague and give it a like, leave a nice comment. Perhaps you have any ideas that how we will take this further, or things that we can change up to make it even better. Please share it. And subscribe if you want more of these videos and follow my journey of building an invoice. And I really hope to see you in the next video.